Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Asana Cayetano. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on this Monday morning.
Man, the entire weekend was wet. Off and on rain. You had rainfall in the early hours of the morning and some during the course of the day. I don't know what to say about waking up to work this morning, Marlene. I'll be honest with you.
Well, we're going into the rainy season, so this is a good adjustment for everyone. We do get rain around this time of year. But yeah, it was, you couldn't tell whether or not you could step out without an umbrella. It was one of those things you had to take it just in case.
Look, thousands of Belizeans from across the country journeyed west this weekend, right? And I think perhaps the primary disappointment, notwithstanding all the great steals and deals that they were shopping for, was the roads and the various pathways on the showgrounds. And the fact that it was completely mucky. So people who wanted to go out there and bling off their best, disappointed.
And if they did, they have quite a bit to clean this morning. All right, but we got a lot to get into. So we're going to get you started with some motivation on this Monday morning. And that means it's time for our eye-opener. Our eye-opener taken from dailyom.com goes like this. It is natural to feel let down when we see our fellow humans behaving badly. Return the focus to your own life. From time to time, we may all feel fed up with humanity, whether it's from learning about what's going on around the world or what's going on next door. There are always situations that leave us feeling as if people are simply not capable of behaving in a way that is coming from a place of awareness. Often it seems as if people are actually geared to handle things in the worst possible way, repeatedly. It is natural to feel let down and disappointed when we see our fellow humans behaving in ways that are greedy, selfish, violent, or uncaring. And there are also ways to process that disappointment without sinking into despondency. As with any emotional response, we honor our feelings by feeling them fully, without judging or acting on them. Once we've done that, we can begin to consider ways that we might help the situation in which humanity finds itself. As always, we start with ourselves, utilizing our awareness of the failings of others to renew our own commitment to be more conscious human beings. We are all capable of the best and the worst that humanity has to offer. And remembering this keeps us in check, as well as allowing us to find compassion for others. We may find ourselves feeling compelled to serve people, or we may begin to speak out when we see something that we don't think is right. Whatever the case, the only thing we can do is pledge to serve the best rather than the worst of what humanity has to offer, both in the world and in ourselves.
The interesting thing about today's eye-opener is that disappointment in human behavior, in my opinion, has more to do with familiarity before anything else, right? So that if I know you, Marlene, and I know what your character is as an individual, and for whatever reason you have done something out of character that I did not expect from you, then I would be disappointed. I'd say, you know what, man, I may expect better from Marlene because she's this type of person, right? I say familiarity because when someone else does it who you don't know, it doesn't affect you as much, right? And so when you look at it from a certain point of view, you begin to look at the people who you know the people who you have certain expectations of, and when they fall short of that, it kind of affects you in a certain way. But the takeaway should be, okay, yes, Marlene has fallen. Yes, the Prime Minister may have said or done something that is unbecoming of someone in that office, but these are the things that I should avoid doing so that I don't find myself in the same pitfall, right? And so that to me is my primary takeaway from it. You can't avoid disappointment because disappointment is part of being human. Not everything you want, not everything you look forward to, not everything you expect in someone will be delivered in the manner in which you are expecting it.
Yeah,
So,
I think your point on the expectations that we set for people is absolutely important here. Sometimes we set low expectations for people. We don't expect much. But for those we set high expectations, we can be disappointed very easily. But the part of the eye-opener that really stands out to me is just reminding yourself that we are also capable of doing the worst.
yeah.
And that's something I think we get caught up in judgment and we don't accept as often. You know, there's this thing that you know, they encourage with parents, that you don't have a bad person. You teach children to not believe they're bad persons. People do bad things, and we're all capable of doing bad things, whether maliciously or sometimes unknowingly. And I think that's a key reminder at any point. When we are in a society where we see things, I mean, imagine would be so fitting for people living in the United States after a mass shooting where children are killed. It's hard. It's hard to even put the pieces together in your mind as to how a person can do that. And you can really just sink into a really sad place, believing that you're living in a world where your children aren't safe in school. But I love that the eye-opener turns it back to you.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing to counter all the negativity in the world? What are you doing to add to the bright spots that people look forward to?
Yeah.
And if we all take time to have that focus, there's more good to talk about than bad. There'll always be bad. We can't run away from. Yeah, we can't avoid that. But are we contributing towards the positivity?
Well, that's the reason I'm saying you look at what that disappointment is. Maybe the person did something that is untoward, that has let you down as a friend or as a family member or someone who is familiar with that individual. And then you tell yourself, okay, these are the things that I need to avoid, which then puts you on a positive course because you're trying your best to be able to avoid the very same issues that that person may have been complicated with.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our eye-opener for this morning. And now we're going to move into our weather update for today. We have forecaster Michelle Augustin on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am okay, and you?
We are dry because we're indoors.
Likewise.
Michelle, I think everybody wants to know when the rain will be over. What's our forecast for today?
The forecast for today is for a few showers, periods of rain, and isolated thunderstorms to continue mostly over northern districts for this morning. And then during the afternoon time, the activity is expected to move inland.
All right. And the winds?
Winds will be from the east to southeast at 10 to 20 knots.
And what about I see that you have some alerts for people headed out to sea?
Right, yes, because even though the winds will be at 10 to 20 knots, we could expect higher gusts, especially during heavy showers and thunderstorms. So there is a small craft caution in effect.
Okay, and what about our temperatures?
Temperatures will reach about 84 Fahrenheit along the coast, only about 88 Fahrenheit inland, and about 78 Fahrenheit in the hills.
All right, and for tonight?
For tonight, lows will drop to about 77 Fahrenheit along the coast, 73 Fahrenheit inland, and 68 Fahrenheit in the hills.
All right, and the extended forecast?
All right, well, starting with tonight, we expect an increase in cloudiness, several outbreaks, frequent showers, heavy showers at that, and thunderstorms over most areas of the country. And then for tomorrow, we see a similar pattern. During the day, it'll be mostly north and central areas during the early mornings. And then at night, we see an increase in activity across the country. So that's from Monday night and Tuesday night.
All right, so we're not completely getting rid of the rain as yet.
No, no. As a matter of fact, the entire week looks like it's going to be a bit rainy.
Wow.
Especially during the nighttime and early morning.
Okay, well, we have been duly warned, and I guess it's a good reminder that the hurricane season is starting as well. Agatha is here to remind us if the rain isn't.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Agatha will continue to affect us for the remainder of this week. No, at least rainfall-wise. It doesn't pose a threat per se to the country, but definitely the rain that we're getting is associated with Agatha.
Okay, and any winds? Would we get any strong winds?
No, the system won't approach us or will not come that near to the country for us to feel the effects of the winds.
Okay.
It's mostly the rainfall, the moisture associated with the system. It keeps pushing moisture in our direction. So hence the reason why we had the weekend and we had, shower activity and thunderstorm activity over some parts of the country this past weekend, and we expect that trend to continue as the system makes landfall later today over Mexico and the remnants moves towards the Gulf. We expect the rains to continue.
The projection at one point was that when it re-enters the Gulf, it may reform into another storm?
Right, yes. That was the projection from over the weekend was for it to, or late last week, was for it to re-emerge over the Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche actually, and then reform. But now the indications are that the remnant of the system as it moves northeastward towards the Yucatan Peninsula instead. And so the remnants may develop a low later this week. So maybe around Thursday, Friday, we could see a low form north of us near the Yucatan Peninsula.
Okay, so
then it will be for us to watch.
Oh, all right. Well, we will definitely keep our eyes open for that. Thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome.
All right, have a great day.
Thanks, and thank you.
All right.
So a wet week ahead, Marlene.
Yeah.
We've been warned, so we got to travel with our umbrellas, our rubber boots, and raincoats for the better part of this week, right?
This is the type of weather where you have to nurse your clothes outside, right?
Yes.
The minute it starts to get cloudy, bring it in because there might be rain coming and maximize the sun.
Yeah.
All right, and of course she gave us a bit of an update on Hurricane Agatha, which I know a lot of people are talking about. But with that though, we're going to shift gears and get moving into Eye on the News.
The central focus of the past weekend has been around the National Agriculture and Trade Show. It resumes after 2 or so years of dormancy, so to speak. You would recall that this particular activity, which brings together farmers from across the country, had been suspended at the start of the pandemic in 2020. And it's only just making a return. Now, most people were looking forward to attending the showgrounds on Saturday and Sunday. And of course, it began with the official opening ceremony on Friday, in which Prime Minister John Briceño, the Governor General, and other government officials as well were on hand for that ceremony. A number of businesses were out there over the course of the weekend, but I think the heart of it is around the farming community. So while it's a trade show where people are selling other produce and other products, it centralizes around the fact that the sector that feeds us, if you look at the farmers of the year, for instance, they come from various parts of the country and are involved with various agriculture activities, right? And to me, having this on display in the context of the fact that the agriculture sector is what's presently leading the country in terms of stability and economic input, I think it is fitting. I mentioned earlier, however, that, well, the weather wasn't as cooperative as one would have expected for this type of an activity, right? So what I will do at this point is, now that I've established that the weekend was centered around the Agric show, the fact that there were other happenings, unfortunately, that took place in the Belmopan area. All right, so we do know that there was a shooting incident on Saturday night near Huang's store. This is on Constitution Drive in Belmopan, where persons inside two vehicles got into an altercation and shots were fired. There was also a murder not too far away in neighboring Cotton Tree Village, where an individual who was who went to visit his sibling in the village ended up getting shot and killed. All right, and I am not saying that this is something that comes out of the Agric show. Yeah. We don't know the circumstances surrounding these incidents. What we do know is that in the past, there have been incidents that occur at the show grounds that spill over outside, right? So it is for the police department in this particular instance to be able to investigate both cases and, you know, kind of give us an idea of what took place there. So that's the first thing, right? While we're sticking with the idea of the National Agriculture and Trade Show and the coverage that was given to it, yesterday was a scare for a number of people. Now, we also acknowledge that the rodeo is a huge part of the whole spectacle of the National Agriculture and Trade Show. People who are into horses, people who are into cattle, and people who are into the idea of rodeoing, who are attending this particular event when this bull just took off. And the video was hilarious, but thankfully, unfortunately, no one was injured. You see,
this part of the video had me scared. This was like a stare down between the vendor and the bull. One person did, you know, closely escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit like running of the bulls here in Belmopan, and thankfully, I mean, that could have been a very dangerous situation.
Definitely.
All jokes aside, and we've all made jokes over it, and we can joke because nobody was severely injured, as far as we know so far. You know, I heard people shouting in the background, stay calm, don't run. But I guess that definitely leads to some reinforcement that has to happen next year.
Yeah. Okay, so we move away from the
I don't know if anybody's moving away from the Mad Bull right now, but we must.
Yes. Okay, so that was the Agric show over the weekend, right? There was also an incident that took place over the weekend that I think, when I look at the responses to what transpired, I would say or describe it as a mixed bag. Now, we all know O.J. Elrington. He has ran for the United Democratic Party in the Freetown area in the 2020 elections and lost to the area representative Francis Fonseca, right? So over the weekend, he was arrested for at least 2 traffic violations that we are aware of, right? One, for turning illegally in front of the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital, where there's an ambulance exit. All right, so that was the first infraction. The other was driving a vehicle without a license. Right? The license had been expired a few days prior, and well, he ended up in a collision. While he's not taking blame for the collision itself, the fact that there are these other 2 violations that he committed raised the question, particularly of someone who is also in public life. He's a well-known person within the United Democratic Party who has, you know, and he's also an attorney at law who represents a number of people as well. And so he was taken to the Belama police station, that particular precinct, and he was charged as they would any ordinary person, right? And so part of what the discussion was, as far as I was following it, is some people were saying, well, had this been anyone else, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal, right? And other people, which is another school of thought, people are saying, well, he ought to know better. I mean, if nothing else, he's an attorney at law, right? He's versed with the bigger crimes and all these other legal aspects or whatsoever, so he should also be versed in driving and traffic safety and all of these other regulations, right? So you do have people who are arguing from that point of view as well. I just find it simply interesting. I mean, I'm saying simply interesting because, you know, when you're operating a motor vehicle, you should be, first of all, aware of all the signs and everything that comes along with using a carriageway with other people, other motorists, pedestrians, cyclists, etc. And so the fact that, you know, there are these two glaring violations, I'm thinking, well, you know, perhaps he ought to have known better indeed.
Well, I think the illegal turn and the fender bender, definitely, if you look at just that, then you think why people are making, you know, why was there an arrest made? But the driving without the insurance is in fact a grave offense, and I think that that is perhaps the reason behind the charge and then the need for bail. But I think it brings an interesting point to this conversation to see how people respond. We were talking before. In Belize, there are two things. One, like anywhere else in the world, once you are a public figure, you are held to different standards. It's that simple. You get into a bar brawl right now, bar brawls happen every night. But it's going to be different if Isani Cayetano is involved. If I get involved in a fender bender, it'll be the same. Fender benders happen multiple times a day, but because of being a well-known person, that would be the same. Politicians, the same. Especially politicians, if they're elected, because people have put them there as someone that they trust and respect. So we can't separate the public figure aspect of it. You're going to be more scrutinized. You're going to be held to a different standard. I think what is unusual about this is that people are accustomed to seeing the opposite, where people who are well known are often kind of given a blind eye and get away with things that your average person doesn't usually get away with. So the way we see the discourse happening now, it seems to be that people are conflicted by that. That typically, if someone well-known gets involved in something, you know, they've got a few friends that they can get a slap on the wrist and get away with it. And so the fact that someone who is an aspiring politician, someone who's run for office, someone who's a visible part of the opposition is involved, I think people don't know how to what to make of it.
So that is
but
one.
But it is in fact the charge. You know, we all know once your insurance is up, you either park your car or you get to the insurance as quickly as possible. There's no leeway with that one.
Yes, indeed. So this is one conversation that is trending, so to speak. The other is the fact that while we're on public figures, the clock is ticking for Deputy Mayor Micah Goodin. We spoke with Mayor Bernard Wagner on Friday, where he opened up as to the decision that was taken by the Belize City Council based on a motion that was tabled by a fellow councillor, Albert Vaughan, who was asking for Goodin to demit office in his capacity as deputy mayor based on the incidents that have transpired with regards to the shooting on Newtown Barracks and what they're saying are other previous bad decisions that were taken by Goodin. And so it officially triggered on Friday the 14-day period during which they're expecting him to step down as deputy mayor. Failing that, then another mechanism will be triggered in which they will recall him by way of a vote within the city council itself, amongst the councillors. So we're going to see what happens in this particular incident, in this particular case, I'm sorry. As I've mentioned, the countdown is on to see what happens next.
Well, there's also the other point. On Friday, the Prime Minister was asked about this,
Yes.
and he gave a glowing review of Micah Gooden and his essential rise out of very challenging circumstances. He did say in that interview that he intends to speak to the parties involved. And I think it'll be interesting to see what type of impact that has. Will the Prime Minister speak to Mayor Wagner, to Micah himself, whether things will follow through with the forced resignation or the recall? I think that's going to be interesting to watch this week, because he was clearly in his interview saying that he sees the good in Micah versus the problems that he's gotten involved with of recent.
Which is also interesting, because when you look at the response and the comments that follow this particular interview with the Prime Minister, some people argue that the Prime Minister seems to be aloof of the situation, because instead of speaking to the incident or speaking to the decision taken by City Hall, he's speaking to the accomplishments, as opposed to saying, well, look, I'm fully aware of what has happened, and perhaps it is, my role as a leader of the party to be able to speak to both sides to see how we can arrive at an amicable solution. That is different from the fact that you're saying, well, yes, he rose out of this particularly difficult situation to become a young man at that, who is in the public eye, who has made something of himself. And I think when I followed what was being said, some people were asked, like I'm putting here, some people were in support of what the PM said, and some people were saying, well, look, you seem to be distanced from the issue at hand.
Yeah. Well, I think in fairness, the question was asked what his relationship with Micah was. So that's just for a point of clarity. But, I think what's going to be interesting here is the autonomy of local government. So we'll keep on watching and see what happens there. That's one of the issues that's a very much a big part of people's conversations right now, to see what will happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that rounds it out for us for the Ireland News
That's
this morning.
right. There is, of course, as we mentioned, a bit about Hurricane Agatha, which is in the Pacific, actually about making landfall to the Pacific coast of Mexico at this moment. But our conversation this morning is going to give us a bit more information. That's it for us, though, with Eye on the News. All right, so as we were saying, in case we needed a reminder, and we always do because we don't like thinking about hurricane season, Agatha is here to tell us that the hurricane season is here.
Yep, it's right around the corner. And so when we come back from our first commercial break, this is what you can expect from us in our conversation. The first topic we're going to touch on is, of course, the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. And we will be joined by the chief meteorologist to be able to discuss what we can look forward to for the next 6 months, beginning in June.
All right. And following the conversation about predictions for this upcoming season, we're going to talk about how to put together your disaster preparedness plans. And of course, there's always the same entity we call upon. They've been doing this for a long time. Belize Red Cross will come in and tell us what we need to do to get our plan in place and why it's important.
And of course, the final conversation is going to be with our friends right next door from the Belize High School as they join us to discuss their STEAM expo. So that's going to be our third and final conversation of the morning.
All right, so that's what we have in store for you this morning. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to get right into the show, so please stay tuned.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
Hi, I'm Chef Sean Quillen. I love cooked fish fillet, and I prefer to get my fish straight at the fish market right here at Conchel Bay. But you see, sometimes you come out here and you don't know what you're getting. The fish has no label, it has no patch of skin. But don't worry about it. I am here today to teach you how to avoid fish fraud. When purchasing your fillet, remember to look out for the patch of skin required by law. Or you could tell them by the physical characteristics. Long and slender, barracuda. Nice white meat, hogfish. The deep bloodline from the bow to the stand, that is jack. When buying in bulk or buying out of a bag, make sure to inspect each fillet individually to avoid what we call in a Creole, pussy in a bag. What a pussy in a bag? Fraud. If that's not the help you, because even for me as a professional chef at this man for 40 years, that's really challenging. All I could tell you is buy from a reputable source or buy it whole. And if all of that's not available to you, just go to fishrighteatright.com and we at Oceana have a fish identification chart. Because guess where you're going here now? We talk about bloodline just now one thing, and that's a snapper, right? Classic snapper. What kind of snapper this?
This is nurse shark.
Nurse shark. Highly illegal. No make they trick you, no make you buy pussy in a bag. Do the right thing. Fish right, eat right.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the split the bill button where he selects the evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
And welcome back. We have been joined in studio this morning by Chief Met Officer Ronald Gordon. Good morning. And you are here to discuss with us everything that we need to know about the upcoming hurricane season, the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. Let's begin first of all by looking at the number of storms that we can expect, and perhaps if you can recall perhaps the names of some of these storms. Right? I know that there's a naming system that precedes the actual hurricane season. What also can we look forward to in terms of the activities associated with this season?
Okay, well, Islane and Marlene, it's a pleasure to be here. If you would allow me, though, I would like to start off by starting to say what are the factors that are going to be in play this season. So when it comes to seasonal prediction, there are two main factors that we look at. One is whether we are having an El Nino or La Nina this season, because as most residents or folks would know, when you have an El Nino, it typically suppresses tropical storm activity on our side of in our basin, no? And when you have cooler than normal sea surface temperatures, also in the Atlantic, it suppresses tropical cyclone activity. For this particular season, we are looking at both conditions being favorable for above normal. That is, either there's going to be neutral or La Nina conditions, which enhances tropical cyclone activity in our area. And also the Atlantic waters, the Caribbean waters are going to be warmer than normal. So that's the fuel that will certainly assist in there being an enhanced activity this year. So with that, having said that, most of the prediction centers are going for an above normal season. To put that in perspective, normal now is for there to be 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. However, for this year, the NOAA, for example, which is the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, is forecasting 14 to 21 named storms, and of those 6 to 10 to become hurricanes and 3 to 6 major hurricanes.
So, yeah, I want to talk about how the predictions are made, but we were talking before we went on air. I was telling you that the new normal would be above average because we seem to be getting this prediction yearly. But in fact, the normal range was recently increased.
Certainly. When it comes to normals, we use a 30-year average as our baseline, right?
Yeah.
So every decade that changes. So previously we were looking at 1981 to 2010 as our baseline period. Then last year, since we moved beyond 2020, now our average is from 1991 to 2020. And the previous normal for the previous 30 years was for there to be 12 named storms. That has increased to 14, right? And then in terms of hurricanes, I believe it was 6, and now that has increased to 7. So the new normal is higher than what it was previously.
And this season is still above the new normal.
That is right.
Now, how do they come up with the predictions? How do you know how many storms are going to form?
Well, like I said, it's mostly a statistical prediction. You are looking at the conditions, whether they are suitable for development. I mentioned a few of them already. Whether there's going to be La Nina, El Nino, whether you're going to have vertical wind shear, which typically tear apart tropical development or tropical systems. Whether you're going to have warmer than normal ocean temperatures in our area. And certainly whether there's enough moisture in the atmosphere. So all those conditions have to be just right for there to be an above normal season.
Yeah. Now, there are also patterns that we know about areas where hurricanes would tend to form during the season itself. We always talk about the final part of the hurricane season becoming a high-risk time for us. Is that still the same? Are we seeing those patterns holding true as well?
Yes, those patterns for the most part remain the same. The early part of the season is also an active part for the Western Caribbean Sea. So early June would be an active part for us. And then at the end of the season as well, going into your September, October, and those periods.
Let's look at, well, I've asked earlier in terms of the naming system, how the names of storms are derived. I had a conversation recently, I guess this is in the context of Agatha that's out there.
Okay.
And someone was saying the name sounds familiar. Talk to us about how the names are formed and given.
Okay. Well, since you mentioned Agatha, I must mention that is a system in the Eastern Pacific, and they have their own set of names.
Yeah.
And then we have a different set of names for the Atlantic Basin. So what we have a hurricane committee, which each country is a part of, Belize as well. So I represent Belize on that committee. And what we do is every year we would go over the list. And if there's a system that has been severe or has done significant damage or caused a lot of fatalities, the country that has been affected the most would request that that name be retired. Okay. So there's a list of names already prepared, and it's rotated every 6 years. So we already have names for 6 years into the future at this point. And like I said, each year we go and revise that list, and if there's a storm that has caused significant damage, it will be retired from the list. So if folks are paying attention, they will see an Earl on the list again, and there's a Richard as well this year. And those two storms made landfall in Belize, but because of the fact that it wasn't, there was not a lot of fatalities, thankfully, and also because the damage was not estimated to be as, I mean, for us it would be a lot of damage, but then you have to put it in context, no? There are systems that make landfall, major hurricanes that make landfall in certain countries where the damage is tremendous, no?
So, for example, in 2019, a hurricane devastated the Bahamas, right? I'm trying to remember the name of it. Dorian. There we go. So that name has been stricken from the list?
That's right. That has been retired.
Like Hattie, like Mitch.
Definitely. You're not going to see a Hattie or a Mitch or a Keith again because those names have been retired. And Keith was retired because of Belize. And the significant damage it caused to us, no?
Yeah.
So we haven't heard of a Mitch, though.
What?
We haven't heard of the return of a Mitch, or has that been retired too? Or?
That has been retired. Mitch will not return again.
Yeah. That had caused substantial damage, not
elsewhere,
just to,
right?
all around us.
And a lot of fatalities as well. So,
But it's when we look at the number of storms, that's one thing that we should pay attention to. But Ronald, I think we've learned, or we should have learned by this time, that it's not just the hurricanes we need to worry about. We have had severe damage from flooding for depressions with the flash floods we've seen in the south. We've seen outer bands just last year, Eta and Iota, that caused severe flooding in our area as well. How do you put into perspective that the hurricane season comes with risks beyond the landfall of a storm?
Definitely. I am glad you mentioned that point, Marlene, because it's something that we keep emphasizing or repeating to the public, that it doesn't take a major hurricane for there to be catastrophic damage and major flooding. So it's certainly important that persons pay keen attention to any system that is coming our way, whether it's a tropical wave or a tropical depression, because sometimes a tropical disturbance or a tropical wave can be very active and dump a tremendous amount of rainfall, which leads to significant flooding and can cause significant damage and even fatalities if persons are not prepared. So certainly what we do at the Met Service is that we, of course, are monitoring continuously. For any weather system, we look at the rainfall projections, and if those rainfalls are forecasted to be above a certain threshold, we certainly advise the public for the potential for flooding, the importance of being prepared for that system.
Yeah. And the pattern of storms as well, the major hurricanes. I think it was last year we talked about it, where the storms are getting stronger faster. I mean, how much do we attribute the increase in number of expected storms? Last year we exhausted the entire hurricane list and went into the Greek alphabet. So the number of storms we're seeing, the severity of the storms we're seeing, and how rapidly they are gaining strength. How much of that is attributed to climate change, and how do we use that as predictions for today?
Okay, certainly, well, just to put that a little bit in context, we had 2 years where the list was exhausted, right? There's 2020 where we went into the Greek alphabet, and last year we exhausted the list, but fortunately we did not go into the Greek alphabet, but that is 2 consecutive years that you have reached 21 named storms, and that is the first time that has occurred in history. So certainly...
so first and second time in history, back
well,
to back.
the previous 2020 was not the first time that we exhausted the list. It occurred in 2005, sorry.
Okay.
Where we had exhausted the list and we went into the Greek alphabet. But I'm saying back to back, consecutively, it's the first time, 2020 and 2021. So certainly it has been very super active. But in terms of putting it into context, I think you mentioned climate change.
Yes.
There have been several studies investigating whether the effects of global warming, the effect of the ocean warming up will have a significant impact on the total number of storms. And most of those studies have shown that there is, or up to now, they haven't found a direct correlation to link the warming with the total number of storms for the season. However, very importantly, those same studies have shown that storms that do develop, though, have the potential to become major hurricanes because of the warming. As I mentioned, tropical systems derive their energy from warm ocean waters. So if you have more fuel going into a system, you expect it to be more stronger. So certainly those, especially those hurricanes that intensify, let's say from a tropical storm to a major hurricane in a few hours, those are quietly likely linked to the effects of climate change and global warming.
Yeah, yeah. And because the development of a major storm, it's happening, as you said, over a matter of hours, and even reaching sometimes the maximum threshold that was once established. We had quite a few in the past few years.
That's
Can you tell us about that?
Well, Eta and Iota I could probably bring up right away. Those went from, I think, if not tropical storm, maybe a category 1 to major hurricane in a very short time.
Yeah.
Of course, we can go as far back as the year 2000, where Keith blew up in front of us from a tropical storm to a major hurricane in a very, very short time. So certainly those are some memorable names that I can bring up in terms of what has occurred now. And for some unfortunate reason, it typically occurs right on our doorstep, which is the Northwestern Caribbean Sea. And that is quite likely linked to the very warm waters that we have in front of us.
It also seems like they stall very often too. These major storms have been strong, but they also, Dorian's a great example. That sat on the Bahamas, I know, for over a day. I don't remember exactly how long.
Yes, well, it all depends on the steering currents, no? Whenever these systems are caught up in what we call weak steering currents, steering is basically what is moving the hurricane. Yeah. And if the currents become very weak, the system will stall. It doesn't know where to go. And that is what occurs. And of course, then it can intensify more because
I was just about to ask.
If it is sitting over a very warm pool of water and it's staying there for a long time, you'll expect it to become even stronger.
Yeah. Ronald, if you were to compare working or looking at predictions for storms 10 years ago to now, what's the difference? Is there predictability? Is it less predictable?
Certainly, from my experience, and I have been at the Met Office since 1998, I can say that in the past, we had a lot of difficulty or challenge in predicting the projection or where the storm will go. And that has improved significantly. In fact, it is documented that the errors has decreased significantly. So when I tell you that a storm will make landfall, let's say in near Cancun, there is a high probability that that system is going to go in that direction, maybe give or plus 50 miles.
Yeah.
In the past, you'd have looked at maybe a 150-mile SWAT, 150 miles, sorry, SWAT, where it can either go north or south of that location. So predicting the path of the system, where it is going, has become much better over the years.
Yeah.
However, it's important to know the intensification part of it has not really improved that much. So sometimes you are seeing a system coming along and it seems to be, maybe it's going to be a little tropical storm or something. The models might be indicating that, but again, I mentioned that sometimes you have them just blow up in front of us into a major hurricane. So intensification prediction has stalled, whereby predicting the path has improved significantly.
So you would say that in terms of the direction or the path that the system takes, technology has advanced to the point where there's a high degree of accuracy where that is concerned. But in terms of being able to measure beforehand, perhaps, how strong or how intense the storm would be, you still haven't really made much headways there.
Exactly, certainly.
And
that is true.
This progress that you talk about in the predictability for landfall, it has to do with the technology that we use. We always talk about the Doppler radar. It was down for a bit, but it's been fixed for over a year. Talk to us about how that helps us in our own warning system.
Certainly. Just to step back a bit in terms of what has really factored into the improvement in prediction, there are a lot of observations that we have out there now, and we have improved the forecast models. So those also are factors that have assisted us in terms of being able to predict the path of the systems. Now, in terms of the local Doppler radar, certainly that's a major, it's an instrument that is tremendously important to us. And it is important, especially when it comes to the system making landfall, or when the system is about to make landfall. As you would probably know, the radar doesn't have a huge coverage. I mean, it goes out to about 400 kilometers from our shores. But the closer you are to the center of where the Doppler radar is, which is at the airport, then the information is more accurate. So the Doppler radar certainly assists us when the system is just about to make landfall in pinpointing where exactly that center is and where it's going to make that landfall. So it gives us about, let's say, a 6 to 12 hour headway in terms of telling us, hey, this is where the eye is, this is where it's moving, and San Pedro, Belicity, or wherever, be unaware that the system is coming very near to you.
Is 12 hours enough time to be able to assist in saving, in preparing people?
I would not say so. So definitely there's...
Because you can't evacuate San Pedro if the storm is 12 hours away. Exactly.
And that is the reason why the Doppler radar is not the only tool that we use.
Okay.
So that tool is very important, like I said, to pinpoint the center. It also, the National Hurricane Center also uses it. Whenever they can see your radar, they will say, well, Belize radar is showing the storm at this location. However, it's certainly important that people be prepared long before that 12-hour period. So that is why we have the global models, we have satellite imagery, we have that type of thing that assists us in terms of identifying the system when it's way out there beyond our shores.
I'd like to segue into another area of this conversation to discuss the coordination between the Met Service, perhaps the hydrology unit, NEMO, and all of these other agencies in the time of a storm. I know that you guys have to join efforts to be able to communicate clearly to each other, to organize the movement of people and what have you. Talk to us a bit about that.
Certainly, we have a very good working relationship, I would say, with those organizations. NEMO certainly is, well, first of all, we're in the same ministry, so that has assisted us in terms of being able to coordinate better. We are always updating the NEMO coordinator and NEMO on any system that is posing a threat to Belize long before it gets here. So we are in constant communication. Once the system is about to, or the system has shown the potential to come here, we will be updating them more often. There's, or we send out an advisory that goes to NEMO. We, of course, include the scientific part of it, and NEMO will include the disaster preparedness part of that advisory. So there is strong coordination there.
Yeah. Now, coming back to the predictions for landfall, it's a double-edged sword, having so much information. because often when we see projected paths, you have your cone, but very often you have just the center point of what you expect to be the projected path, and that shifts within the cone. Over the years, we've seen where people take it literally and don't heed the warning. What's your advice to people as to how to read these predictions and to gauge their own, make their own risk assessments?
Yes. First of all, I would like to say that persons should, of course, pay attention to official information, right?
Yeah.
Don't be misguided or don't become embroiled in rumors and so on. But certainly, when it comes to the prediction cone, it is a cone of uncertainty. So that center line, we advise persons not to focus on the center line.
Yeah.
The idea of the cone is to tell you that the center of that system, that hurricane, or would it be a tropical storm, could be anywhere within that warning cone whenever it makes landfall on you. So if you see a cone extending from southern Belize to, let's say, the border, then it's telling you that the eye of that storm can make landfall either in southern Belize or at the northern border. It is not telling you to focus on the center. Another misconception, of course, is that the cone, of course, will open up in time because of the fact that the predictability decreases with time. There's more uncertainty. So, of course, the cone is going to widen. But a misconception that residents or the public takes, and it's not only in Belize, but it's across the world, they will see that cone becoming wider and they think the hurricane is becoming bigger. But that is not the case. The cone is certainly just telling you the unpredictability, the level of uncertainty that's there with that system.
Yeah, so when we see something like this, for example, you see how wide it is. We try to assume where it's going to make landfall, at least the center of it. But it's a storm, and the bands itself can reach far out.
Certainly, and I think this image is, if I am correct, is showing the probability of either
storm
force winds. So it's a probability cone that you're looking at there. And certainly, like I said, anywhere within that area, wherever it is showing green or oranges, it is telling you that tropical storm force or hurricane force winds can occur. So it's a probability.
Yeah. And so we still have to be prepared nonetheless.
Yes, certainly.
Sometimes they make swings right before landfall too. That was the case with, I can't remember the name of the storm, the one that caused the storm surge in Ladyville. Earl, thank you. That was, I know, at the very last minute, it made landfall there, but it wasn't the area that made landfall that we saw the concerns with flooding. Again, it takes us back to listening to the advice that's given to us by NEMO, by the entire team there at the Met Service about being prepared. Where are the areas of concern when a storm is making landfall? Because in that case, I believe Ladyville was just north of the area of landfall.
Yes. And you mentioned the little swings that occur probably just before landfall, and it's important. That is the reason why when we issue a warning or alert, we don't focus on an exact area, because there's always a little bit of unpredictability that can occur, and a slight deviation can cause a significant difference. And we saw that with Earl. The system was forecasted to make landfall, I think, a little bit north of Ladyville, over, let's say, the Biscayne area, a bit to the north. And at the end, it made a little bit of southwest jog. So it came in just south of Ladyville, I think over Belize City, more or less. And of course, north of the center, you asked me where are the most hazards. It would be north of where the system makes landfall. So you have both the storm surge that will affect you in that area, because of the fact that you have the wind coming from offshore to the land. So it's bringing in the water with it. And of course, the more severe winds are also on the north. So those are the major areas for concern. But of course, with a system that is producing a lot of rainfall, you cannot focus on you cannot focus on one particular area. Rainfall can occur far from the center, and flooding can occur also far from the center.
Yeah, that was one of those situations where I think people realized they didn't get the brunt of the storm, but that storm surge came in quickly and scared a lot of people.
Indeed.
Just quickly though, when we talk major storms, we're talking higher than a Category 3, right?
Yes, a major hurricane is defined as one that is higher than Category 3, which is, I think, about 115 miles per hour, if my memory is correct.
Well, but looking at Belize and or major coastal areas, many of them are very vulnerable to even Category 2 and in some cases Category 1 storms. Can you explain that for us?
Yes, we are a very low-lying coastline area, so certainly it doesn't take a major hurricane to have to create significant damage. So certainly we have to be prepared for any system, and as I mentioned before, even a tropical depression with a lot of rainfall can have significant flooding effect on our coastlines. Not that are very, like we said, we are some part of the coastline is at sea level or below. So it doesn't take a major hurricane. We have to be prepared nonetheless.
Yeah. And the factors for flooding, like what we saw with Eta and Iota?
Flooding can occur, I think, in Belize anywhere, but certainly, certainly we advise residents, if you're living near rivers, if you're having tremendous amount of rainfall, that certainly can lead to flash flooding. So persons along the rivers, persons in mountainous areas can be at the risk for landslides as well. And of course, then you have the flooding that comes, we call riverine flooding, or we call it, there's another name, it slips my mind right now, but those floods that come along with the river flooding and swelling and coming in from the inland areas to the coast. Certainly we saw that with Eta and Iota, whereby the rains had stopped, but the rivers were still flooded, so you had flooding occurring in areas like Ladeville, I think in Belama, in Belize City. So I think on a whole, we need to be prepared for whatever type of flooding could occur.
Yeah. All right. And I know that you also, just as we wrap up, because we're going to move into a conversation now about disaster planning, you also at the Met Service help out in times when there are things like tsunami warnings.
Yes, the National Met Service is the tsunami warning focal point for the country of Belize. So whenever a tsunami alert is issued by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, those bulletins will come to us, and we would of course inform them immediately that there is a potential for a tsunami coming our way, so that they can in turn alert the public.
How many times have we issued a tsunami warning in Belize?
If my memory serves me right, I think we did transfer information to NEMO from the last potential tsunami that occurred in 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, may have been once or
yes.
twice. Yeah.
So I would say once or twice it has occurred in the past.
All right. Yes. Any closing thoughts, Ronald?
Before I close off, I would like to certainly mention the fact that even though the hurricane season has not started as yet, we are having some effects from a tropical system in the Pacific, which is Agatha. So I urge residents to be on the lookout for the potential actually for very heavy rainfall and for the possibility of flooding over the next few days across the country. So I guess it's an eye-opener for us. The hurricane season is here, and we need to be prepared.
All right.
Early one.
Thank you so much for that. And we are going to be talking about getting prepared after the break. We're going to be joined by Red Cross to talk about how you can put together those disaster preparedness kits. So please stay tuned.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5 Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
And we are back and we're moving into our second conversation for today. Of course, we spoke a bit about the predictions for the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. And now we're talking about how you can get prepared. When we talk preparedness, we talk to Belize Red Cross.
Yes.
We have with us Director General Lily Bowman. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time out. I know that things get very busy around your office quite often, and especially now. But it's the ideal time for people to start thinking of planning for the season ahead.
Well, the planning should have been done from the beginning of the year. And that is what we do all year round. Prepare people to plan, to be able to respond, and you know, ultimately save lives. They save their own. But yes, it's time. It's not too late. The season is just starting. And as we could see, the rains have started very early this year. So there's still time to plan. I mean, plan on how to safeguard you and your family more than anything else.
Is there a challenge perhaps in planning ahead this time around, considering the fact that we're coming out of a pandemic? Well, some would say we're still very much in the throes of the pandemic, but in terms of recovery, economic recovery, in terms of families being able to perhaps have a little bit more to spend this time around, does that perhaps conflict with the planning process where you're looking at sending kids to school, you're looking at perhaps rebounding from certain things that you were facing when you didn't have that kind of money, and now you have to put together a plan?
You are very right, but remember that the planning itself just takes the family to sit down together with our emergency plan and complete it together, assign roles. That doesn't cost any money. At least you get that out of the way. Assign your different responsibilities. Take care of every area of your home and your life that you have to prepare for now. And yes, you have to take food for 3 days. That's what we tell everybody, food and water, and you have to have your battery radio, your flashlight, your medication, everything. But what we tell people is to plan all year round. Put aside a little bit of money or start buying your things closer to the season so that everything does not pile up on you at the last minute. So yes, it's a little challenging because a lot of people probably are still not working due to the COVID pandemic. A lot of people have lost income during that time and maybe just recovering, yes. But it's something that you can space out throughout the year. So there's still that way that you can address the challenge.
I know we have been having this conversation on a yearly basis, talking about getting people to put together a family plan. Have you seen any changes in the interest of people to whether contact the Red Cross to guide them or to get your booklet? Has there been a growing interest?
I don't know if I'd call it a growing interest as far as coming to the office to ask for a plan is concerned, because I don't really see a lot of that. It's more us going to them. But I do see a lot more awareness within the community. I mean, at least our field officers report that people are a lot more better prepared. Even in the last, the floods of 2020 from Hurricane Eta and Iota, we had survival stories that people told us if it wasn't for what the Red Cross taught us, we would not have known what to do. You know, people saving others' lives, and it's really very, very consoling and comforting for us to know. But yes, people are more aware. And that alone is a big part of preparedness, being aware of what you're to do or what is going to happen, what can happen. So, I think so, but they don't really come to the office as much as we go to them.
So in the grand scheme, the Belize Red Cross is the first responder, is among the first responders to any hurricane or tropical storm, natural disaster scenario. What is the state of readiness of your organization at this point?
As far as experience, knowledge, preparedness, I think we are always ready. We might not have the ready finance here at home to jump out right away, but we are backed up by the world's largest humanitarian organization, which is the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. So it is just like, for instance, from right now, you see this weather that is coming, we will be already posting something on a platform that everybody in the Federation can see. And so they will be aware that there may be need for assistance. And immediately, there's an emergency fund that we can get so we can move right away. Other than that, we already have items pre-stocked in country and in all the branches. So as to not delay that response. We also have our trained community members, our national intervention team members in every district, so they are activated as soon as it's necessary and put on standby, and they're ready to move. We also train community disaster response teams in so many communities already that are then presented to NEMO to strengthen the national response. So I think as far as preparedness, it's not only about the Red Cross, but it's about all the other players out there. And we form a part of the national response system in strong support of NEMO or CEMO, be it the case in the city. And looking at it from that, we are well prepared. It's just always finances, a small national society like us. And we have a powerful support with our volunteers.
You rely a lot on your volunteers.
Right, of course. That's the basis of our foundation. I mean, that's the foundation of our organization.
There are a lot of young people out there who are looking for something to get associated with. Are you still taking in volunteers?
We ask for volunteers all the time. We do a lot of accommodation for students doing community service, and that's our opportunity to talk to them about volunteering for the Red Cross. But oftentimes they come more when there's a response to a disaster, which is fine. We need them at that time. But then it's kind of hard to train them on the road, running. So a lot of them get that first-hand experience along with our more seasoned volunteers.
So let's move into some of the planning tips that we can offer people this morning. As you said, yes, financially it's difficult right now to think of buying anything extra. But when a storm comes around, we have to find it. You know, we have to find money for whatever it is that we're going to take with us to the shelter or to lock up in our own house or family member's house. What are some of the things that people can start doing now, even if they're going to kind of space out the execution of their plan?
You mean like purchasing?
Yeah, but putting together the general plan. It starts with just putting it on paper, right?
Well, that should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this plan takes you through step by step, you know, recording your family name, every member of the family, their age, important phone numbers. You need to have those on, you know, readily available. It guides you on where you will meet.
Yeah.
You know, will it be a place in the community? And if you notice, we have supported CMO over the last year or two in installing some big billboards around the city, at least around the city, giving you awareness of where you are to be.
Yeah.
You know, the meeting point.
Yeah.
And the
evacuation
routes, that's what I want to say, and where you assemble. So you put that into your plan for your area, and you know, it will be much easier for you.
And you tell your family.
Let everybody know.
Even the children.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And yes, you gather everybody, because everybody plays a role.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time of emergency, when you're scurrying all over the place, chaos is the last thing you want.
And we plan for emergencies that can happen, although not a part of our history. I could never forget, we just asked Ronald about the tsunami warnings. People don't plan for that.
No.
In something like that would totally just catch you off guard. You have to know where you're going to meet your family if something like that happens.
Exactly. And you know, the Belize Red Cross does contact, we call it tracing family links.
Yeah.
We do that as well. If the case was that severe that people got displaced and are looking for their family, we do that service. But you talked about what, you know, the challenges of finances, but when Christmas come, everybody find money, right?
Certainly.
Let's look at it like Christmas, you know.
Yeah.
Put that money aside, because you will need, like my dad used to always say, save for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Literally, this is a rainy day.
Yeah.
You know, you should have your savings. So you start to put, canned food doesn't spoil really.
Yeah.
So you start to put aside every month, buy a couple extra canned food, and buy your water doesn't spoil, things like that. You know, you could start putting aside right away. But the main thing is to know what each person is going to do or is responsible for.
Knowing where you're going to go if you have to evacuate your house is also a big thing.
Exactly, yes. And the plan tells you all that. It gets you ready for that.
I think it requires some degree of behavior change in some instance, where we're so used to, well, the hurricane might come this year, nothing will happen by mid-October, that we begin to, you kind of relax everything. We don't expect that something can happen, and so the plan that we should have had in place and all the food items and everything that we should have been stocking as we go along, we start give away whatever it is, and then something happens and then we're caught flat-footed.
Yes. I mean, being prepared means having vision.
Yeah.
Definitely you have to look far beyond, even after November, because you know sometimes the season really extends into December, and it's just something that you have to understand. We have a hurricane season half the year, so half of what you do must be geared towards safekeeping yourself during a hurricane.
Yeah. So we put aside a few canned foods, and this is an ideal time to have it. People are about to get paid. It's the end of the month. They could maybe decide to ensure that all the water bottles are replaced, buy some food. Now, what are some of the things that you find people tend to forget? You've responded to so many communities after a storm, from floods to hurricanes. What are some of the things that people tend to forget that we can remind our viewers of now?
Believe it or not, some people don't take enough food for 3 days because I suppose they know that people like the Red Cross, like Nemo, will come in with food.
Yeah.
But then it does not mean you could get there right away. So, you know, A lot of things. I mean, food is one of the main things, and sometimes they don't take enough. They don't take things maybe to entertain their children, and then their children become irritated and cause more
stress for them.
More stress and more, I don't want to say excitement, but in the negative way, you know, like stress them out indeed, and kind of make them more panicky. And that's what I want to say. Panic is the worst thing. You don't want to do that. You need to have a straight mind of, you know, where you're going, what you're doing, and in an orderly kind of fashion. So take toys, get drawing books, things like that for your children to be occupied while they're in a shelter.
That's important.
Also, medication.
Oh, medication.
Medication is very important. And now, of course, we have COVID to worry about. So you have to remember to take your sanitizer, your mask. I mean, those are the things that you have to really start putting in your grab-and-go bag from very early.
Once you're in the shelter,
Yes, important documents. Well, you know, that should, like, I have my important documents in one container, one thing, so I just could grab that everywhere I go. So, you know, that is an easy thing to prepare. Have that on hand safely in one container that you can just grab. But yes, those are the things that people may forget from time to time.
Once you're in the hurricane shelter, I think while we're in the pandemic, the biggest challenge would be the social distancing aspect, right? Because as it stands right now, where we have relaxed regulations, we're not adhering to certain things at present. So you could only imagine when there's an eventuality and we're forced to seek shelter at a school or at a public building or what have you. While we may have our hand sanitizer and we may have our face mask, when you're looking at the volume of people who are seeking shelter at that very one location.
That's a challenge. That's a big challenge, especially since infrastructure is very expensive to you know, like you can't be just expanding for a shelter per se. As you know, shelters are normally schools or community centers. The Red Cross, from time to time, through our projects, we support NEMO in refurbishing community centers in certain target communities that we work with. And we just finished doing just that in a project that we ended in March. But we can't be everywhere attending to this. So we have incorporated training in issues to do with COVID, you know, especially preventative measures, and so in our training for shelter. Because now it depends on the people. You can't expand the building, so but we could lessen the people, and people can be, you know, become aware and stay aware that COVID is still alive out there. We need to take care of ourselves, our children, and each other. So yes, it's up to people to keep that distance, to wear their mask where it's a lot of people, and to apply their sanitizers and whatnot.
And disaster response, which is another area. You talk about preparedness, you talk about building resiliency, but you also respond after a disaster. And we know that over the years, we've seen a shift from the provision of goods and items to being able to help people get back on their feet. Can we talk about that? Giving monetary donations instead.
Cash and cash vouchers is a big part of what the International Federation of Red Cross is pushing for response. It's a lot more, it's a lot less cumbersome for us. It's more economic. It gives people that feeling of independence to apply this money where they most need, because if we go to a house with blankets and pack sets and hygiene, which we still give out, mind you. I mean, those are still needed. But we are telling them this is what you need. They need to tell us what they need. And so giving them cash, it gives them, and also it helps to preserve their dignity. And you know, that they can go themselves to a store and purchase what the family needs.
I've always wondered and pondered about that, you know. When you look at a disaster scenario and you're there to provide relief for people who are in distress, right? If we're talking about dignity, for instance, right? Yes, we understand that they're in need of emergency relief, But when you take things to them that they don't necessarily need at that point in time, you find that there is wastage in some instances. You find that there isn't really anything that they can do with the items, and they just sit there. But what they really need isn't what they're getting, because and I'm speaking from just a donor, for instance, we would go and give things without consulting with them to find out, okay, what do you have, what don't you have, what do you need right now? We just go with a bunch of stuff and say, hey, we brought some stuff for you to, start the recovery process with. And it shows that we're completely out of touch with what's on the ground.
Well, that's not the way the Red Cross works.
No, I'm not saying that that's how the Red Cross works. I'm talking in general.
No, but it does happen. It does happen. You find a lot of people load up their trucks and just go in and give out stuff without having done an assessment. We carry out a rapid assessment to get an understanding of the damage, the level of damage, and the immediate needs of people who have been affected. But we don't go empty-handed. We go into a community with the same stuff that we have to deliver, because on the spot we find out, okay, they need so much blankets, they need this, they need that. We give them that right away. We don't go, to save time as well. We don't go empty-handed, but we carry out assessments, and the rapid assessments are what really set the foundation for our plan going forward. Then from there we continue assessments throughout the response. But with cash, like in the past we have done cash about 2 times, and we find that the people, because people would say, you give them cash, they spend it in a casino or drinking, or we give them cash because we know that there is a gap. There is a gap, and we also do a market analysis before we give out the cash. So we just don't go there willy-nilly and give out. Okay, I'll give you $400. No, we do a market analysis to find out what is that economic gap, and that exists at that time, and we address that by agreeing with a sum of whatever. Like the last time we gave them like about $640, but that was in the middle of COVID, the thick of COVID, and we had the floods from Hurricane Eta and Iota. But we go back and we talk to these people, and a high percentage of people really put it into what they said originally that they needed. It was at that time education. Remember, they still had to buy books and uniforms and whatever.
Which are lost if there's a flood.
Right. And a lot of them did lose. But not only that, a lot of them were not working anymore because of COVID. And then, of course, they put it to food. Some of them had to do slight repairs or little renovations to their home that was messed up by the floods. I mean, we found out that they really do. And we have to trust them. Right, and we have to trust and purport that they are using it for the right reasons.
So this is all part of the work that the Red Cross does in helping people after disasters. The idea that, when we first started talking, we're talking about preparedness. The disasters that we see in Belize, they've changed. We talk about Eta and Iota that caused what was 100-year flood. We'd never seen floods like that before. I know you responded there as well. Do you find that people listen to warnings when you go in after a disaster? What are some of the reasons why you hear people say they stay even though there was a risk associated?
They don't want to leave their homes if they're afraid that people break into their homes. They don't want to. In the case especially of the floods in 2020, it was COVID. I want to catch COVID if I go to the shelter, things like that. And you can't give them wrong. That was something that was really, very visible in front of us. So that was one excuse that they, if they go to the shelter, they could catch COVID. But mostly they want to protect their home. And thirdly, they believe that it won't be that bad. It won't be that bad. And then last minute you can't really rush out to help them. That is the danger. Remember Hurricane Earl, when Vista Del Mar had that
storm surge.
Yes. And then they were like last minute calling
people were
for help.
begging for evacuation mid-storm, but they couldn't go in and help.
It was too late. Or you put your military people's lives at risk. So yeah, those are the reasons that we would normally hear.
All right, so the most important thing as we recap, 3 days of food per person, or what are we looking at?
Well, per family,
Okay.
but you have to take into account the number of people in your family.
Okay.
Water.
Water. Children need entertainment. The tablet won't last during that
You
time.
don't even know if we'll have electricity.
Yes. So some other form of
Or you could
entertainment.
download
Yeah.
long ahead of time, download programs on your on their tablet, and until that runs out, then you know.
To be able to entertain them. Medication that will be necessary. What else are we missing?
Yeah,
You know, we
documents.
have to be aware of your older people,
Yes.
pregnant women,
Yeah.
and children. Those are the vulnerable groups that you have to look at. So if and people living with disabilities, you have to plan specially for them.
Yeah.
So you have to know, you know, who belongs to your family, where you'll take them, how will they be accommodated, and your documents.
Your documents and some clothes, I guess.
Clothes.
All right. And in the COVID reality, we need masks and sanitizers.
Definitely. We still are in COVID, so that you have to include in your grab and go bag for sure.
All right.
And you know, I just want to remind everybody that come to Red Cross. We have these books, we have these plans. I brought these for a few in Spanish and a few in English for your staff, and use it.
It is literally a walkthrough for your
Yes,
plan.
it's
It makes
easy.
it so
It's
easy.
easy.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming in and reminding us once again what all we must include in our disaster preparedness plan.
Thank you very much too.
All right.
Look forward to next year.
All right.
All right, so we're going to take a commercial break, and when we return, we're going to be joined by our friends from the Belize High School as we look at their STEAM Expo, STEAM Fair.
This May will be amazing at Benny's. Get amazing deals and great gifts from mom. We have Pyrex bakeware, Chicago cutlery knife sets, Corningware, Snapware, and the elegant yet durable Coral dinnerware sets at amazing prices. Check out our impressive line of Sankey appliances and much, much more. Take advantage of these amazing deals all May long only at Benny's, celebrating 75 years of quality and savings.
Galenia Hospital, located in Cancun, Mexico's premier tourism destination, is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility that provides highly specialized medical services. We are Quintana Roo's biggest private hospital with board-certified doctors and staff. Some of our services include Cath Lab, Adult Intensive Care Unit, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, emergency rooms, operating theaters, ambulance services, and more. We are a medically accredited hospital by JCI, Accreditation Canada International, and General Health Council, providing extraordinary care in every specialty, from our cardiology department to our neurology center. We are focused on treating the entire person, body, mind, and spirit. Contact us at medicaltourism@hospitalgalenia.com or visit our website at www.hospitalgalenia.com. Come to Galenia Hospital in Cancun for a truly personal medical care experience.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank contactless MasterCard debit card. Introducing our standard debit and MasterCard Platinum debit cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marion Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Wow. Oh my God, she drunk. No hurry, I got this. Goodness. Oh my gosh, it's the artist.
Being the hardest. The artist. But you had way more than 2 drinks tonight, love, which is a legal limit to drive. What about you? Can you drive?
Well, I was drinking soft drink all night, so I can drive her home. Thanks, Bree. Of course, Tricia, you know I got you. You're my girl.
That's what I like to see. Friends don't let friends drive drunk, because you can't replay in a real life. Stig says so. Can't replay in a real life.
Are back and we're moving into our final conversation for today. As we said, we're going to get all the details about Belize High School's STEAM Expo. We have with us on set Benny He, who's a junior student, and Sandra Lindo, who is a freshman student. And joining us via Zoom, we have the head of the Humanities Department, Joseph Stamp Romero, and Vice Principal Diana Azueta. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So a very interesting time coming up. You guys are planning your STEAM Expo. I was asking the students here, but maybe someone from administration, Diana or Joseph, can jump in. This is your version of end of year science fair, right?
Yeah. It's more than just a science fair because it's going to be a showing of projects that go across the various subject areas. So it's not just science.
Yes.
The collaboration of various subjects, right?
Now, the focus on STEAM has been of high priority for many schools. But of course, Belize High School has definitely taken it to another level. Joseph, let's get you to weigh in here on how it's integrated throughout the curriculum.
Sure, I think that's a great point. One of the challenges that we, I think, took on was trying to do education different once we were in the reality of COVID. So STEAM education, approaching teaching our students beyond the actual textbook was something that we thought had to happen immediately. And so when you think about history, when you think about science, math, English, all of those subjects were intertwined into the idea of STEAM, giving students application assignments, application activities that were just more than memorizing what was in the book. It had to be something more real, something more tangible. And I think the principle, the vision was that students will know that we are still connected, despite the fact that we were at home for most of the school year, or the two-year period.
So how do you guys bring all of this together to be able to present it as an expo this coming Thursday? How do you take all of the concepts and all of the applications and merge both of them and being able to present it? Joe?
Planning, very careful planning. Teachers collaborating one with the others.
I think you're on mute, Miss Diana.
It requires a lot of collaboration with teachers, amongst teachers, because then they have to get together to figure out what project will relate to the other teachers' subject, and they have to figure out again how best can they make sure this one project represents all that they are teaching in the various subjects.
All right.
A lot of planning.
So let's get the students to weigh in here. Sandra and Benny, tell us a bit about the amount of time you've been putting into developing your projects.
Well, like you said, we've tried our best to incorporate STEAM into our education, and we've been working on these projects beforehand from a very long time. Starting from Easter, we have been continuously working hard, liaising with our teachers to put together something we believe is definitely worth showcasing to you all on that expo on Thursday. But also, many of the details we have planned beforehand, because just to make sure that everything is executed properly and to the best, so that we can just have a great expo this Thursday for you all to see.
Yeah, and we've been meeting up with our various departments after school for the past few weeks, so we could all get an understanding as to what we're supposed to do and incorporate all the projects.
Now, I know you guys don't want to share with us what you're doing individually, right?
Seems like a top secret,
that
right?
That would be a spoiler. It'd have to be something you'd want.
Are we talking volcanoes here?
No, not volcanoes. Maybe something even better.
Perhaps some robotics?
Yes, robotics is one of them. But I don't want to get into all the details because that'd be me spoiling it. You'd have to see it for yourself.
I mean, you are looking for that wow factor, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We want to surprise you.
And it's competitive, like you try not to let other groups know your project?
Well, we have certain students who are very competitive about it, and then some of us who are just like having fun, like making the projects.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's all of us, the entire BHS community as a whole, coming together to showcase to you all everything that we have done. So something that we're definitely looking forward to.
All right, so go ahead, Mr. Venta.
Okay. I think the students are learning how very important it is for us to know soft skills more than just content. Because that's the focus now. When they leave here and they go to college, and when they leave college and then work course, they will be required to know more than just content. They need to know a lot of soft skills, things like leadership and creativity and cooperation and collaboration and having confidence in making a presentation. Those are the skills we are focusing on.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate these various skills that you're talking about? How do you cultivate this amongst these students who, while they do have their workload in terms of being able to do their assignments and take their tests and what have you, still be able to develop these kinds of qualities, to be able to lead a team, to be able to participate in team activity, to be able to be, you know, either creative or forward thinking in these kinds of scenarios?
It requires the teacher being forward thinking herself or himself. It requires the teacher planning very carefully because attitudes are thoughts. If the teacher is excited about the work, the students become excited too. Let Mr. Staff explain what he does.
Sure. So I think that's a really good question, Isani. And I think one of the first approaches that in history, for example, they're not separate. They are closely related in terms of what you want to achieve. So the test isn't separate from the project or the project from the test. So oftentimes the assessments are very much connected. So whatever they achieve in class via a project or a process, as we call it here, is one of the same. So we're looking for these skills as much as we might be looking for a how they do well in a test score. The thing that we do here is that we don't see them as separate.
So let's explain to our viewers. We talked about STEM for a while. Now we're talking about STEAM. Why is this such an important focus for modern day schools?
That's a good question. I could talk about in the classroom for us. One of the things that I think, for me, when I look at things, because I see things artistically, I see things creatively, and I look at how people operate within environments beyond the classroom where I've worked. And one of the things that I think is important is that students are driven to understand that success is application-based. So they have to know much more than how, or have the ability to memorize. And that's what the world is. Having students who can perform across different applications systems, not just within a school system. But as Mr. said earlier, when you go into a workplace, how do you bring the kind of skills that employers are looking for? When you move from to college settings, how do you become the kind of leaders that affect change within your school community and beyond that? So I think we are looking at where the world is, not just where BHS wants to be in a local setting.
All right, let's talk about some of these skills that you've been learning in putting together these projects. How big are the groups that you're working with?
Well, the groups that we're working in, we separate them into departments.
Okay.
And so I'd say each group maybe has 20 or more students.
And what's it like working along with that many people to come up with different ideas?
Well, it's good because it really helps you to work on your collaboration skills, and it also helps you to work together on a whole and be more open-minded because, again, with that much people in a group, everybody has different ideas. So you really get to see the perspectives of everyone, and you really get to take all of that into consideration and just find a way to put all of that into together where everybody agrees on the same thing.
So there's one project coming out of that group of 20? Or multiple?
It's multiple.
Okay.
It would be it's multiple.
How do you find yourself as a student working in a group setting versus working individually? Because I know that oftentimes that's a challenge, right? We're lone wolves, so to speak, when it comes to doing our assignments and our tests, but we're required to be team players when it comes to projects. How do you maneuver that?
Well, working individually definitely has benefits because you get to choose things that you want to do by yourself. But again, working in a group also has benefits because nowadays, everywhere you go in the workplace, you have to work as a group. So you definitely gain those skills, those necessary benefits from working in a group setting and being able just to be there, pitching in, helping with everyone. So both of them really have their benefits. So I think that's something that you definitely could see in.
Are you one of the team leaders?
No, but
Okay.
I'm in one of the groups.
How do you select the team leaders?
Well, I don't think there's really a team leader because in my department we don't really have, but we have the various groups, and then you have a person, the teachers in the group with you will be leading the group, and then you have the students that will be working with the group.
So how do you decide on, I imagine, you're trying to be as innovative as possible. That always happens when you're going to put something out, especially for the public to be able to see as well. How do you decide on what idea you want to showcase? Is it based entirely on what you've been learning, or is it also going beyond?
Well, like you asked just now, how do we decide a leader? Well, we don't. We're all leaders. So what we do is we all pitch in our ideas. We all come together and we decide on, okay, what idea will give us the most benefits? Because again, this is not only a one-person thing. This is something that the entire group will benefit from. So if the entire group does a good job, then that's the entire group. So it's definitely something that everybody has to think about and be like, okay, what is going to benefit us more, this idea or this idea? And we just agree on that. Or you can incorporate both ideas to have an overall great foundation.
Okay. So what topic are you presenting on? If you're going to tell us your project, tell us what topic or theme, so we have an idea of what to expect.
Well, for me, I'm in the IT department, and a topic that I could say that we're presenting on would be robotics.
And for you?
I'm working with the humanities department with Mr. Stamp, and one of our groups will be doing journalism.
Ooh. So there's going to be a newscast, a BHS newscast.
That would be interesting.
All right. And so it is an event that is open to the public, right, Diana?
It is.
Okay, so
open to the public on Thursday, starting at 9 o'clock.
And what's the prize for the best project?
We haven't decided that yet.
So just do your best.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share with our viewers before we close?
I just want to thank you guys for giving the students a chance to go on the show. Thank you so much. It's good to see you, Sonny and Marlene.
Good to see you too, and looking forward to seeing what you guys showcase come Thursday.
We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to have the students speak.
All right.
And I'm sure they will represent us well on Thursday as well.
All right. Thank you so much. And with that, the BHS STEAM Expo is going to be June 2nd, right at your compound here on Mercy Lane, and it starts at 9 a.m. and it's open to the public. That's it for us, though. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few.
My name is Wilmer De La Rosa from Santa Elena Town. I am currently a student at Cayo, set for employment training. Enrolled in the electrical installation program. In late July 2021, I got a confirmation that I was a successful applicant and would be granted a scholarship from Social Security Board. It was one of the proudest moments for me. I felt very excited to start this new path in my life. So far on my journey as a Social Security Board scholar, my vocational technical scholarship has assisted me in achieving my life goals in so many ways. For one, it has renewed sense of purpose, another chance at professional development, and a start at a new career. This opportunity has paved the way for me to excel in life as an individual and as a member of society. Great things are coming after I graduate from SET. I can promise you that. Applying for a vocational technical scholarship through the Social Security Board is simple and easy. I would advise young people in need to apply. It is possible to create a fulfilling and fruitful life with a Social Security scholarship. Believe in yourself and your abilities and skills. I always say the key is to always keep an open mind and let your determination be your motivation.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma en tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
Messi. Off goal! What a goal from Leo Messi! What an incredible strike from Leo Messi! Neymar and Messi is standing over this. Messi. Off goal! What a goal from Leo
Great entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
All right, so quite a few conversations this morning, starting off with the predictions for the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season.
And of course, the preparations that we should all keep in mind and all get a handle of for the 2022 hurricane season as well.
Very fitting to look at what is expected, but also talking about how we can prepare for the unexpected. I know that clearly we think of the expenses associated with planning for a hurricane, but it's either start now or try to find it in the midst of an emergency already. And I know, Lily talked about reducing the amount of panic that you feel.
Yeah.
One way to do that is to at least have some things already checked off from that list.
And of course, once you have the booklet, it gives you a guide as to what you need to do and how quickly and when you need to put those measures into place. One of the things that Lily mentioned that I find particularly interesting is the fact that while you may not have a set budget put aside for a hurricane or natural disaster, if you begin with the very little things on a monthly basis, right? You can say 1 month, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stock up on an amount of non-perishables. Another month, we're going to deal with, having all the water bottles filled.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not even month by month. It's how it works best for you
Week
in terms
by
of your
week,
income.
yeah.
I find that to be perhaps the better way to go, given all the other expenses that families do have.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you're going to go out and have to get plywood or, a whole lot of other things during that time. So if you can start now, that would be advisable. And, last year I know we had someone from the Red Cross come in and they showed us how to do a 3-day package for a family of 3 with $50. It was about $50 or $60. So it is possible. It's just to keep it at a low budget. But it's always advisable if you just plan ahead, right? And we also want to thank our BHS students who came in and the administration that joined us to tell us about their upcoming STEAM Expo on Thursday. So if you're in the area, you can drop on by and see the hard work of the kids.
Definitely.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up things for today, right? We got a birthday shout out though.
We are saying happy birthday this morning to Dennis Alvarez Jr.
All right, Dennis, we hope you have a great day today from all of us here at Channel 5 and Open Your Eyes. And remember, if you want to send a birthday greeting, you just have to send it to our email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelize. And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, please.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.